Hey guys, this is Pride, or you might know me as Barnor from the various Paladin Discord servers. I'm the guy that made Barnor's Retribution TPS spreadsheet, along with other Paladin resources like WeakAuras for Classic and Classic TBC. People often ask for help with reading their logs in order to figure out how well they did in a fight and where they messed up or where they can do better and stuff like that. It's really common in our Discord, so I decided to make this quick guide for reading your logs as a Retribution Paladin in Classic TPC. Now, the only things you really need for this is a log of a fight that you did, and then somewhere to write down your numbers, like this notepad here, and a calculator that will help you out a little bit as well. So let's get into it. So I've got a random log of a Retribution Paladin here. The first thing you'll want to do is select a specific fight. Let's just go with Magtheridon because it's a nice long fight, 6 minutes 51 seconds. Next, what you want to do is you want to click damage done here, and then find yourself in the list of damage players and click on your name. This will open your damage breakdown here. Just make sure you're on the tables view on the top right here and not any of the other views. You will really want to be on the tables view. We have a table here listing all of your damage sources in the fight. This is your damage table. It also lists how much damage they did, but we don't really care about that right now. We care about some specific things. The main thing we'll be looking at in this video in specific is your melee attacks, along with seal twisting and seal usage in general, because it's probably the biggest area where people usually make mistakes that they can improve. So if we look at the log right here, we'll see that next to the melee entry, this person had 127 casts and 126 hits. That means that they tried swinging with an auto attack 127 times, and one of them was a miss, or as we can see here, dodge. So that resulted in 127 swings and 126 hits. So what we're going to do is we're going to quickly write this down. 127 swings, 126 hits. However, we don't actually care about all of these swings because some of them were the result of Wind Fury procs, which we don't care about. They did not really change how you perform. So what we're going to do is we're going to go on the buffs list here. Then we will scroll down until we find the Wind Fury attack instance. And next to it, we'll see number 19 for count. That means you had 19 procs in this log. So we're going to go back to our notepad and actually write this down. 19 Wind Fury. And then we want to remove these 19 Wind Fury procs from our swings. So 127 minus 19 gives us 108 swings, or 107 hits, which is the real amount of hits we had without Wind Fury. Now, going back to the log, we want to scroll up and go back to the damage done view. You will notice this section here above your damage table called the source auras filter. How this works is, if I try clicking on, let's say, Seal of Command real quick, you will notice that its outline becomes green and the table changes. So now the table has changed to only show damage events where you had the Seal of Command buff active at the time of you dealing damage. If I click on it a second time, Seal of Command will go red, meaning now it shows only damage events where you did not have Seal of Command active for that event. This is going to be very important for figuring out how many of your swings were twists and how you did overall. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and actually disable Seal Blood 2, so it has a red outline. And what we get when we have both of our seals disabled at the same time is what we call naked hits, meaning the hits where we had no seals on whatsoever. So in this specific log, we will see that this person had 3 swings without any seal on and 2 hits. So we'll go ahead and write that down. However, it is possible that some of these were a result of Wind Fury. So what we're going to do is we'll click on the Wind Fury attack filter here. And what we get is no data in table, which means that we don't really have to do anything anymore to calculate our naked hits minus Wind Fury. So following that, we'll just reset our source auras filter, make sure nothing is highlighted whatsoever. Next up, what we want to do is we want to figure out the amount of our swings that only had Seal of Command on. And the way we'll do that is we will enable the Seal of Command filter, so it's green, and we will disable the Seal of Blood filter by making sure it's red. Now we can see that this person had 15 swings and 13 hits with just Seal of Command on. So we'll go ahead and write that down. However, as I did with the naked hits before, it is possible that some of these were the result of Wind Fury. So we'll go ahead and enable the Wind Fury filter, and we'll see that, indeed, 2 of these attacks were the result of Wind Fury. So what we want to do is we want to take half of these hits, because Wind Fury gives you 1 bonus attack, and subtract it from the previous amounts that we did. So half of 2 is 1, obviously. And then we'll go here to where we wrote this down, and we'll say 15 minus 4 is 14 swings and 12 hits for Seal Command only. Next, we want to do the same thing, but with for Seal of Blood instead of Seal of Command. So we'll disable Seal of Command, and we'll enable Seal of Blood and reset the Wind Fury filter. So now we see 59 casts, 59 hits. So we'll go ahead and write that down. Again, however, some of these were probably the result of Wind Fury, which we don't want to count. So we'll enable the Wind Fury attack filter, and we see indeed 18 casts, 18 hits. Half of that is 9, so we want to remove that from our previous amount. 59 minus 9 is 50, so we'll say 50 swings and hits. Now, we're going to reset all of our filters here, make sure none of them are selected at all. The last thing we want to see is something that most people are most interested in, which is how many of our swings were seal twists, which is actually really easy. All we have to do is just select both Seal Command and Seal Blood, and what you get is the number of your melee swings that you had both of them on. So we can see something kind of strange here. There's 50 swings and 52 hits, which shouldn't happen. Your hits should always be equal to or less than your number of casts. So that means that there's probably a bug in this log with some Wind Fury shenanigans, probably. But we're not gonna we're not gonna concern with it too much. We'll just go ahead and write that down anyway. So 50 twist swings, 52 hits. Normally, again, hits will be equal or lower than this, but we'll just ignore that for now. Again, though, some of these were with Wind Fury, and we don't want to count that, so we'll enable the Wind Fury filter. And indeed, we get 18. Half of 18 is 9. So if we subtract that from the previous number, we get 41 swings, 43 hits. Okay. So these are actually all of the numbers that we needed out of this log. We don't really need to look at the log any longer. Last thing we really need to do is we want to calculate, we want to check that this is actually correct. We have the correct data and we didn't make any mistakes in figuring all these numbers out. So we're going to add all of these together. 41 twists plus 50 Seal of Blood is 91. Plus 14 Seal of Command is 105, plus 3 naked swings 108, and that is indeed the number we have here, so we know for sure that we calculated correctly. And given that we know that these numbers are not right, what we're going to do is we're going to go in our calculator. We want to figure out our twist ratio, or what percentage of our swings were twists. So we'll do 41 over 108. Let's multiply it by 100 to make it easier to see. So 37.96 was our twist ratio. Now, if I look at this log overall, I would say that this person actually did pretty good. Only 3 naked swings and 108 attacks total is pretty low. Obviously, you always want to aim for 0, but sometimes it happens. 14 Seal of Command swings is kind of high, but it's not really the end of the world. Seal of Command still does a decent amount of damage. People think that it does a significantly lower amount of damage than Blood, but it actually is not the case. It's not the end of the world if you have a high amount of this. It's just ideally you want to turn these into twists instead. You don't want to be swinging with just Command, but that's again not really the end of the world. So the last numbers we have are Seal of Blood only hits and twists, and that is actually the one area where this log is kind of lacking in. I would say that this twist ratio is kind of low. You want to be aiming for about 45%. It is possible to have 50%, which is something that people put on my spreadsheet usually. And in fact, it is even possible to have more than 50%, especially when you have, for example, buffs like Heroism and other haste effects, in which you can do the different rotation called Twist Twist CS, where you twist 2 times and then do 1 Crusader Strike. But that's mostly for shorter fights. In longer fights, in long fights like this one, 6 minutes and 51 seconds, 45% is actually a very realistic goal. I think that's what you should be aiming for, not higher. Higher is a bit unreasonable. But all in all, 37.96 or about 38 is kind of low. If I did this over 45, I would get 84.3, meaning this is about 15.7% lower than where it should be. But yeah, all in all, this look was pretty decent. Just seal twisting that you could improve on looking at these numbers. The other numbers were pretty reasonable. There's many other things I could look at in the log besides auto attacks and seal twisting. If I wanted to go more in depth, like Crusader Strike and judgment usage, and buff up time, and decision making in general, which you'd have to go into the event list to figure out what this person did and what happened, what was happening in the fight. Maybe even check out the replay. But I don't really have the time to go into all of that right now. I feel like this video is probably already getting pretty long. So I focused more on auto attacks and twisting, which I feel is kind of superficial. It's not the only thing that matters, but it's a pretty good start for people to look at their logs and find out where they have areas in which they can improve. On my Patreon, which will be linked in the description of this video, I actually offer a personal log review service where I can look at your logs, and I can also look at your gameplay footage as well. And I can look at it in depth to offer more personal feedback and advice on how to do better, tailored specifically to your gameplay and how you do on a specific log. So if that's something you're interested in, by all means, check out my Patreon. But yeah, this will be all for now. I hope this video was simple to understand. I tried to make it simple as possible. And I hope you found it helpful and that it helps you improve in the future and do better damage. Thanks a lot for watching, and peace.